when you have children with a narcissist. A narcissist is a word that we use to refer to persons that are in generally abusive, self-centered, self-aggrandizing, and lacking empathy. As a result of their lack of empathy, they tend to be neglectful of the needs of those who are close to them and abusive to those who are close to them. So when you work with a trauma specialist, your trauma specialist is going to help you to appreciate that getting out of contact with them, that is to go no contact, is your best strategy for healing. It is difficult to heal in a relationship with a narcissist because the narcissist is the anti-therapist. So while you're trying to do this work and trying to get this good advice in your therapy and in your healing, the narcissist is trying to unheal you. So they're trying to trigger you. They're trying to work against your growth and your healing. They're trying to sabotage you and your life. They're trying to get you to believe negative things about yourself and cause you to think badly about yourself and your world, other people outside of them. They're trying to frame themselves as being superior or blameless, and frame you as being to blame and inferior. And so as a result, just having contact with a narcissist is bad for your health. It's bad for your metaphysical health. So we're talking about your ego, which is how you contextualize yourself inside your own mind. You have a concept of the self in your brain, and that's what I call the ego. The ego needs to be healthy. You need to have a healthy ego in order to make good decisions and believe in your decisions, to have faith in yourself, to have confidence in yourself. But you can't maintain a good ego if you're in constant contact with someone whose main goal is to deplete your ego. The reason why narcissists want to deplete your ego is so that they can easier control you. If they can get you living in fear, if they can make you have low self-worth, if they can make you doubt yourself, doubt your reality, then you're easier to control. The reason they want to control you is so that they can ultimately get you into a position in which you are reliant on them. And in your reliance on them, they can now prove themselves as superior, as the victor in their own twisted hierarchy that they have in their head. So this is why the narcissist does everything they do. This is why they say everything they say, because they want to try to place you somewhere in this hierarchy below them. And the hierarchy, of course, is fake. It is fictional. It is made up by them. But they believe that not all people are valuable. Only one can be on top. And so there are the bullies, and then there's the bullied. If you have children with a narcissist, it can become confusing when you get the instruction that you are supposed to cut contact with your narcissist. And so in your confusion, you may say, well, but I have children with the narcissist. And somehow in your mind, that may mean that you are somehow an exception to needing to cut contact with your narcissist. But you are not an exception. Again, the narcissist's aim is to unheal you. They are the anti-therapists. So they will try to tear you down. They will try to deplete your self-worth, your self-esteem, to deplete your ego. Therefore, they are toxic. They are unhealthy. Toxic is poisonous. Every time you have contact with them, you read their messages, you read their emails, you talk to them, you're in their presence, you are being poisoned. You are exposing yourself to poison. So just because you have children with them doesn't somehow mean that it is now okay for you to go and have contact with the narcissist. You should avoid contact with your narcissist. But it's important for us to not get caught thinking in extremes. So when we have children with the narcissist, we may think in the extreme of, well, we have children together, so therefore we are a family and we must operate as a family. And so understand that the instruction is very simple. It may be difficult to apply in your case, but it is not a complicated or too difficult to understand instruction. Here's the instruction. Avoid narcissists. If you want to heal, if you want to stay healthy, avoid contact with narcissists. Go to great lengths to avoid contact with them. So when we say, well, but I have children with them, then we would be like a person who lives in a town near a volcano. And the experts have said the volcano has erupted and there's lava spilling down the side of the volcano towards your town. Avoid contact with the lava. What would you do? Do you think you would stay in your house and allow the lava to continue to get closer and closer until it eats up your entire house and eventually kills you? Understanding that this lava is dangerous and that the instruction is that you avoid contact. You will run the opposite direction that the lava is coming. But what if the lava overtakes some of the things that are important to you, like your coffee shop and your school, before it reaches you? Does that change the instruction? Of course not. You still need to avoid contact with the lava. What if the lava comes and it actually touches your house? Something that's so important to you. Does that change the instruction? Of course not. You still need to avoid contact with the lava. So if it's gotten to the point where it's reached your house, then you need to move even faster than ever. Well, what if it reaches your shoe? What if it actually touches your shoe? It starts to singe the edge of it and burn the rubber. Should you say, well, but it's already touched my shoe? No. You should avoid the lava. So you have to go through great lengths to take the action to get away from that which is dangerous to you. Likewise, when you have the instruction to avoid the narcissist, you are to do whatever you can. You are to go through great lengths to avoid them, even if you have children with them. You just have to do what you are capable of doing, what is possible in your case. So if the lava has already reached your house, then you don't have time to gather your belongings. If the lava has reached your car, then you cannot get in your car and drive. So if you have children with your narcissist, you still need to cut contact with the narcissist. I hope that's clear. But in every case, it's going to be different according to your circumstances, because in some cases, the narcissist may be just a deadbeat parent. And so you could literally pick up your child and move across the country, and they wouldn't do anything about it, and they don't care. They don't care to be in the child's life. They're not going to take any action, in which case you should pick up your child and move to the other end of the country, because the instruction is to avoid contact with narcissists. But in some cases, that wouldn't be possible because the narcissist does want to have involvement in the child's life. It has a right to have involvement in its own child's life. It has petitioned the court to have involvement in the child's life. And so now you are required by law to allow the narcissist to have involvement in the child's life. So then what do? Well, you do whatever is absolutely necessary, and you avoid the narcissist to the extent possible. So you have to take a moment and take stock of your situation and analyze, how can I have as little contact as possible? How can I get away from my narcissistic ex to the extent possible? Because every person's situation is going to be a little bit different. And so in some cases, you can pick up the child and just go. In other cases, you need to stay in the same town. In other cases, you'll need to allow that person to have access to the child on certain days. In other cases, you have to allow that person to have access and full custody of the child. It depends on what your legal situation is. But you have a responsibility toward two people, toward yourself and toward your child. And it is your primary responsibility to care for the self, like a mother who is instructed to put the oxygen mask on themselves first so that they can properly care for children in the case of an emergency. And so going through your healing is to the benefit of your children. Taking care of yourself metaphysically, your mental and emotional health, in other words, is to the benefit for your children. Does that make sense? So don't say, well, but I have children with the narcissist. Say, okay, what is the least amount of contact that I can possibly have? So if you're in a situation where you need to co-parent with the narcissist, understand that you can't co-anything with a narcissist. So you got to let that go. You're a parent of the child. They are a by blood parent of the child as well. So how do you handle the situation? Well, you might want to research, for instance, parallel parenting. Parallel parenting is a method of co-parenting in which each parent has their own parenting approach, where the children, when they are with the respective parent, will have their own situation in that respective household. And so there, the parents in parallel parenting do not attend the same functions, appointments, child-related events. These parents probably do not talk to each other face to face. Instead, they're going to email, text, or message through a co-parenting app. So research parallel parenting. Do research on other parents who have made YouTube videos and written articles on how they're co-parenting with this narcissist, because you can't cooperate with a person who is intent on seeing your demise. It's not possible. So you want to have the minimal amount of contact that is possible. When you have a narcissistic co-parent that has rights to this child, then they have rights to see the child, not to see you. Does that make sense? They have rights to associate with the child, not to associate with you. So don't allow them to utilize the child, which they will absolutely try to do, to get close to you, to talk to you, because every interaction with them is an energy exchange, and they're exchanging bad energy to you. They're putting bad energy into you by sending you words, text messages, thoughts, even just images. They can just put pictures and videos on Instagram, and that is still sending you bad energy. So don't allow them to do that. Cut off contact with them to the extent absolutely possible. If there has to be any contact, make it minimal and only about necessary business. This child, picking up, dropping off, what is the necessary thing you need to know? Outside of that, we don't talk. There's nothing to talk about. When a decision needs to be made that involves both of us, if possible, we involve a mediator. In this way, what are we doing? We're minimizing contact. Why are we doing that? Because this person is toxic. Does that make sense? They are bad for our health. We're better for our child when we're healthy. We're better for our child when we're healthy. One of the best things you can do for a child if you realize that their parent is a narcissist is to show them that you do not tolerate abuse. This is important to recognize because in many cases, parents feel like, well, I have to keep my family together, and that's the main goal. Or I can't leave this person because that's where the money is, or we're a family, or we have kids, and they have all of these reasons and excuses that they can't leave the narcissist. But sometimes the best thing you can do when you're dealing with an abusive person is to allow your children to learn that you don't tolerate abuse so that they can learn that they're not supposed to tolerate abuse. Because you know who hurts us second to most of our abusive parent? It's our codependent parents. When we see a codependent parent stay in the relationship, take the abuse, not set boundaries, not stand up for themselves, not stand up for the children, it causes the child to get a message. Inadvertently, they learn, I'm supposed to allow a man to get away with this. Or all that crazy behavior, that's just how women are. And if I want to be in a relationship, I have to just tolerate abuse. That's what love is. This is the idea that a child can get from observing your behavior if you behave in a codependent manner. A codependent manner is, I'm afraid to be alone. I'm afraid to be on my own. I'm nothing without another person. That's codependent thinking and behavior. So if they see you stay, sometimes that's not what's really best for the child. And although it could be difficult for some time for you to leave and to start over and to rebuild, that is exactly what is most needed. And a child witnessing you do that, even if it takes you years to truly get on your feet, child will have a lasting impact in their psyche that we don't tolerate abuse. We don't prioritize our financial well-being over our mental health. We don't prioritize our social status and standing in the community or in the church over our emotional well-being. That's one of the most important lessons your children could learn. So how do we talk to our children about a narcissistic parent? Can we just tell them about narcissism? How do we teach children about narcissism? This is a question that comes up from time to time. And it's an impossible question to answer exactly because children are not a monolith, right? There's different age groups, different developmental levels, different levels of understanding. So you have to talk to your child in a way that's appropriate for your child, because I don't know what the development level of your child is, what their experience is, how bad their parent is, if they're living with that parent or not, if they live with the parent part-time, if they're totally separated from the parent. There's too many variables for me to give you one specific way of speaking to all children about narcissism. But I'll try to give you some tips to help you to sort of guide the thinking when it comes to this idea, this concept of speaking to your children about narcissistic parents. It's good to be truthful with our children. It's good to be truthful rather than deceitful. So sometimes out of love, we have the idea that we should not give children the truth about life and paint sort of a rose-colored picture of what life is all about and what life is like. And so then we shelter the children. We have this idea that we should shelter them from the realities of the world. We don't want them to know that their mother has done these things or that their father is a monster. And so we try to keep our kids in some sort of Candyland version of life. It's not our responsibility to make our kids live in some sort of gaslit, happy reality. In reality, if you do that, it actually won't prepare them for real life, because real life isn't that way. It's our job as parents to guide our children. We don't want to go to the other extreme, as some parents do, of venting on our children, of making our children like our partner, where we go to them with everything, of emotionally dumping on our children. We don't need to go into details and tell stories about all the things that this narcissist did to them and how bad their father is, and call their other parent and by different names and be ugly with our children. That's going to the other extreme. Okay, we don't need to try to instill fear in your children. You see, these are two extreme ways of approaching life guidance. Your job is to guide a child, right? And to instruct a child. And you can't really guide them and instruct them if you don't use truth and logic, reason and balance. And so approach it with truth, logic, reason, and balance. Tell them the truth of what's really happening or what has happened, especially when prompted by their own experience. So rather than just going up to them and saying, I have something to tell you, your father's a narcissist, allow them to express to you if there is an issue or a problem and validate their feelings. Don't be afraid to call out bad behavior. If your child witnesses something violent or traumatic, or experiences something traumatic, those are traumas. We need to acknowledge the child's feelings, how the child may be feeling. And so if you know the child has witnessed or experienced something traumatic, address it with the child. We want to include reason, which means it depends on the child's age, right? So I don't walk up to a 4-year-old and say, your father has narcissistic personality disorder and he was abused as a child. The child's 4 that I'm speaking to, right? So developmentally, he's probably not ready for that level of a conversation. What may be appropriate is to say to children, yeah, how do you feel? Yes, that was mean. What your mother did was wrong. What your father said to you was mean or insensitive. What your mother said was untrue. You are loved. I love you. I will always love you. I love you and your siblings equally. I love all of you. We have to adjust the message according to the age and according to the experience that the person is going through. It's not wrong to say to a kid, depending on the age, yes, the reason I needed to leave your father or your mother is because your father hit me or because your father was mean to me. It's reality. It's a harsh reality, but you're not doing your child a favor by hiding the truth from them. It's not our goal to try to get the child on our side or try to make them think negatively about the other person. In fact, you shouldn't speak negatively about the other person. We should keep things to facts, just basic facts. The reason I needed to leave was because of this, and that's why. So then they understand, oh, it wasn't me. The child needs to know, was it me? Did it have something to do with me? Why isn't this working out? All of a sudden I'm born and you guys aren't together anymore. They need to know the truth. And in the end, they can learn from your example and see, oh, because they'll always remember my mother left my father because my father did this. Okay, good. Now I know if someone does that, that's what I would do. I will leave that person. And that's what we want for our children. We want for them to have standards, to have boundaries. Remind your children that you love them, constantly build them up. What your children need is not perfect parenting. They don't need a perfect life. What they need is a parent that is good enough. And just one will be incredibly helpful. And so you can be that parent to your child by reminding them constantly how much you love them and building up their self-esteem. Not, I love you because you got good grades or because you're good or well behaved. That's not why you love them. You love them because they are, because they're here, because they're your child. It's not based on anything. It's not conditional. Emphasize for your child the importance for empathy. If you decide to stay in a relationship with a narcissist, against my advice, understand that that narcissistic parent is going to groom your child to be an abuser or abuse your child, or both. That is the reality you are signing up for by staying in that relationship. The abusive parent will groom your child to be an abuser, or they will abuse the child, or maybe both. Don't allow any of the children in the household to become the scapegoat. And if you're new to all of this talk, a scapegoat is a particular person that is singled out by a narcissist in a narcissistic family or group system that is to blame for everything. They become the dumping ground for everything. Don't allow one of your children to become the scapegoat. Stand up for your children. If you are in that relationship, you chose to stay in that household, in that relationship with the narcissist, you will need to either set boundaries and speak up, defending yourself and your children against the narcissist, or be a passive, codependent abuse victim in front of your children. If you set boundaries and speak up, then it's going to cause problems. There's going to be fights. The household's going to erupt. And maybe if you're skilled, you won't be a part of the eruption, but you will have caused it because you have set a boundary. And the narcissist now has to punish you and teach you that setting a boundary with them is not appropriate, because they have to maintain control. And they have to maintain control because they have to make sure you don't believe that you are equal to them or above them. They have to make sure you believe that they are above you. It is impossible to cooperate with a narcissist. They are anti-cooperation. Unless you're going to cooperate in being a co-abuser with them. They don't mind cooperating with other abusers and narcissists to hurt others. So don't allow your children to be scapegoated or to be singled out as being the favorite or the least favorite. Teach your children to see each other as equals and talk to them individually about what's going on. Okay, so you can get in a conversation with young children, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can tell them, hey, I saw what happened in there. Are you okay? What your father said, that was wrong. You can say that. You could say, I don't agree with what he said or the way he handled that. I don't think that was right. What do you think is a better way that could have been handled? You can teach your kids to reason and to recognize that people aren't perfect. Again, there's no reason to go in on a long litany of tearing down the other parent. But there is reason. There is reason to stand up for what is right and what is true with your children. Because in this way, we help them to develop a moral compass, which will help to prevent them from becoming narcissists. Because it is absolutely true that often narcissists come from homes where one of the parents were a narcissist or abusive or abandoning. And so your work to be a good enough parent for your child, to fill them with love and to build them up, prevents them from moving on to become an abuser themselves. Taking a hard stand against any abusive behavior that you see one of your children exhibiting as early as possible helps them to develop a strong moral compass. This means that you will have to take a stand. That is to put your foot down and say, hey, that is not appropriate. And there's definitely going to be consequences for that type of behavior. On the other hand, just like you don't want to throw the other parent under the bus, you don't want to go to the other extreme of covering for the other parent or being a flying monkey for the other parents. Your job is to heal your codependency by living your own life. So what should you be doing? You should not be thinking and talking about the narcissist all the time. You should be thinking and talking about your purpose all the time. Be there for your children. If there's co-parenting happening, you don't need to give the narcissist access to you. What they have rights to is access to the child. So don't get that mixed up. Don't allow them to use the child as a way to get to you. It's inappropriate. Living your own life means recognizing for yourself what your purpose is. Take a moment right now. Are you clear on what your purpose is? Some of us become so consumed with the abuser, so obsessed with the abuser, that we lose sight of who we are or what we're supposed to be doing outside of healing. Sometimes when we ask a trauma survivor what their purpose is, they may say, I don't know. They may say, just to heal. If you want to heal, you need to have a purpose. Healing is balance, to become balanced. You keep balance on a bicycle by having forward momentum. But you can't have forward momentum if you're not going in any direction. So create direction for your life. Pick a purpose. Work towards it. And that gives you the momentum to keep the balance. The purpose is essential to healing. Let go of the fear of loneliness, the fear of breaking up or being a single parent, and embrace the power of your personal free will, your personal choice. Connect with resources that help you to learn how to parallel parent. Get your own source of income. Get your own shelter. Find sources of joy outside of the trauma bond that you have with the narcissist. As a result of your splitting away, your breaking away from the abusive person, you will finally become whole, complete within yourself. And as a result, you can be happy, you can be prosperous, and you can live a life that is fulfilling and be fulfilled.